morning, everybody, and welcome to Telstra Connected Cycling series. It's absolutely great to see everybody joining in again this morning, wherever you are joining us from around Australia or from right around the world. A special shout out to all our riders and people joining us from the Stage 4 conditions in Victoria. Great effort to be here. Our thoughts are with you during this difficult time, and we hope this morning brings you a great deal of connection and also inspiration through our activity on the bike and our special guests. We are thrilled to have our numbers growing each week as the news goes out about our workout and our chat with inspirational Aussies and others like Germans and others, and hear how the impact of this program continues from all who have given us feedback and conversations coming back to us during the week. This is our 19th week of broadcasting and developing and iterating this Telstra Connected series initiative, and our pro team of Sandy Woolley, the on annual leave Diane Hannon, Kurt Houston, Anna Mallon and John Pitchinen are absolutely delighted. Everyone is finding it's making an impact to their week and to their health and their well-being. We've been spellbound by stories of so many champions of the bike, of commentators, coaches, lobbyists and Olympic gold medalists. And this week, this morning, again, it's all about a champion's life with Peta Mullens. The Telstra Connected Cycling's motto is connecting people and technology through the passion for cycling. And with that stated, here is our ride director, Sandy Woolley.
Hey, thanks, Duncan. And one thing I'll just correct you on, John Pitchen is not delightful at all.
It was a stumble. It was a Freudian slip. It was a stumble.
Yeah, I wouldn't let you get away with it. But look, again, welcome everyone. And just a call out to those who are in the game. Well done. Nice, easy start. But of course, crack on if you really want to go and have a good ride. But jumping to the back, you do get a good workout down the back. I learned more and more international people are joining in. Each week we've got California, we've got New York, as Duncan said, Germany. We have Hamburg dialing in as well, which is awesome. I'm going up the hill. For those of you who are Doona dwellers or not riding, you haven't joined before, you're wondering why I'm puffing. Apart from being a crap rider, it's we're riding in the game. There is a screenshot of the game that you can see the virtual game of riders. Aim is to keep us together as much as possible, and that's proving difficult for me right now.
Go, Sandy.
But,
go.
Oh, on the flats. That's my thing, relatively. So at 10 minutes in, 20 minutes in, and 30 minutes in, I'll take a screenshot for those closest to me, and we'll recognise you keeping the bunch together. When I refer to the blob, and the race leaders refer to the blob, top right hand of the screen, at the moment we're one big string of blue dots, and that is the blob. That's Zwift speak for keeping the bunch together, Adrian's seat. Hope you can get it now. Back to you, Duncan. Looking forward to the chat with Peter, and thanks, Peter, for coming on.
Thank you, Sandy.
Yeah, keep huffing and puffing, mate. I feel really good for you. Good for you. Now, I guess today is an out-and-out champion on the bike, and not just road riding, but also mountain bike and cyclocross. Peta Mullens has won Australian titles in all three disciplines, and if we can go on mute, that'd be fantastic, guys. Peta has raced on Australian teams, competed at the Commonwealth Games, and been selected as an Olympic reserve for the road team in Rio in 2016. Peta has a talent for winning bike races, no matter what the course or the type of bike. To speak about her incredible career and how she approaches the work and the competition through donuts, please welcome to Telstra Connected Cycling, the one and only Peta Mullens. G'day, Peta. How are you?
Morning, everybody.
Morning to you too. Bendigo, is it?
Yes, Bendigo. Nice and dark in Bendigo this morning, and wet. Very, very wet.
Now, you've got a good setup in Bendigo. We'll go with your setup to begin with, Pete, because you've got actually a training room. You live with your wonderful partner, Jared Moroney, and you've got a room as you're pedaling away there with your rock salt.
Give you a tour.
Yes, please.
So we've got the all-new Wahoo kicker bike. First time use, I'll let you know too.
So the kicker bike is a specific training bike made by Wahoo. It costs like $10 billion, but it can do some extraordinary stuff, can't it? It can go uphill, it can go downhill, it tilts. It's got about 4 or 5 settings so 4 or 5 people can use it just by the hit of a button, and away it goes. Is that right?
Yeah, it's adjustable in 6 different places, and I'm just tilting up and down as I speak. You can climb 14% and descend 20%. Yeah, so as you're in the virtual game, it goes up and down based on the course. Really handy.
Sandy needs that downhill model, 20% at least, just to keep going. And I mean that, Sandy. And behind you, I can see behind you, just flash past, you got a couple of your jerseys framed as a bit of insight.
Yeah, I've got my Commonwealth Games one framed behind us, yeah.
Unbelievable. So how much training are you doing right now? Let everybody know as they're huffing and puffing in their Zwift ride behind you. How much training are you doing right now, Pete?
Not a lot. Yeah, I think COVID's affected different people in different ways, and I suppose the reason I don't feel too guilty is there's nothing to really train for at the moment. The race season's a long way away for us, especially in Victoria. So I'm sort of doing anywhere from, probably only like 8 to 10 hours a week, really. Yeah.
And what's your state of mind, because there's so many people here from Victoria in stage 4 right now, or around the country in different stages and things like that, been affected. Their businesses have been affected. Your business with COVID has severely been affected in terms of your ride and your competition and your winning business. How have you coped with it?
Yeah, I suppose we sold our bike shop 2 weeks ago, actually. That business was severely impacted in a positive way. I think, so I sort of have 2 standpoints. One is obviously I'm devastated that we're unable to race our bike, especially in Victoria, and it's restricted our travel plans, not just this year internationally, but potentially next year. But I think on the other hand, working in a bike shop, I've recognised there are so many people either bringing old relics out of the shed or buying new bikes and getting outside and enjoying the outdoors, time with their family, and that's kind of rewarding.
Yeah, and I had a great adventure trying to buy a mountain bike for my 8-year-old's birthday party about a month ago in Brisbane. Trying to track down any kind of decent bike was very, very sporty, but I found it in the end. So tell us about a bit about yourself, Pete, because a lot of people on the call would have seen your name, heard your name, but not maybe known too much about you. You've got this unbelievably gregarious nature in terms of how you ride your bike and how you bring such an incredibly refreshing attitude to the hardcore, tight, pressurized professional bike ranks, both on the road and in the mountain bike and cyclocross. Has it always been there, and where did you start?
So I started out, I should be ashamed to say it as a bike rider, but as a triathlete. I actually just used to love running in the bush with my dad. We used to go on sort of, 5, 10, 15, 20 kilometre runs every week. And that was when I was sort of 13. And then I did some fun runs, fell into aquathon, fell into triathlon, got injured jumping off a steeplechase. And then I fell into cycling. It was kind of just a natural part. The kicks and curves of the road, and eventually fell into cycling at 16, and then I haven't looked back.
No, you haven't looked back, because when you look at your website, PetaMullens.com, and you've got your list of races right from the get-go, the 15-16 season, it's like first, second, first. It's an incredible winning record you've got. When we talk to champions on the Telstra Connected Cycling series, we talk about their losses and, severely coming over injuries, and we'll get to that with you as well. But I don't think we've ever had a champion on our podcast or conversation on Wednesday mornings who's done as much winning as you.
I think you're on the call too, Duncan. I think your list is pretty decent. I think for me, I probably race at a slightly different level. So I'm not racing women's world tour races. I race races that I enjoy in different parts of the world that I enjoy. Sometimes they're a little bit more obscure than what you'll see as a women's world tour race, but I love them all the same.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And it really comes through, your interviews to the papers after post-race, your attitude in the bunch is quite, and we'll get to it in a second, but which one of the disciplines do you like the best? I know you've had a lot of road wins. You've won the Australian Championship, under 23 Australian Championship as well, but you've been to the mountain bikes, to the Commonwealth Games, and you've won the mountain bike Australian Championships as well. You've won the cyclocross Australian Championships as well. Like I said, no matter what the discipline or the course, you've seemed to keep on winning all the way up to the national championships and things like that. So which one do you like best? Which one do you like?
I like them all for different reasons. So the road, I really love road racing. I'm part of a wonderful team on the road. I love the tactics of a road race. I love the versatility in terms of you can win, your teammate can win, other competitors can win, and it's never over until it's over. Mountain biking, I like riding my mountain bike the best. Of all my bikes, my mountain bike's my favourite. But the racing's super, super hard. So if I'm not fit, I don't always enjoy that one. But in terms of being outside, and the one I'm most passionate about, and probably the one that's kept me in bike riding, is mountain biking. And then cyclocross is just something different altogether. So it kind of combines a bit of both, really. Yeah.
What's your mindset like at the start line of each race? Can you describe your mindset differences between each of the three disciplines? Because there's a lot of people on the ride who ride mountain bikes for fun on the weekends, have a road crew that basically they meet 2 or 3 times a morning and get on their Zwift ride and things like that when COVID's here. But what's your mindset? What's your mindset as a professional rider in all three disciplines, standing at the start line? What are you thinking?
So I think the road's probably the easiest. I feel really comfortable on the start line because I have other teammates around me, and we have a race plan that I'm always really excited to execute. The mountain bike, I'm probably the most nervous. I feel like it's the one where you have to be the most switched on. You have to have great legs on the day of a mountain bike race. And sometimes that's uncontrollable once you've hit the start line. Yeah.
What about cyclocross? You just don't think at all?
Well, cyclocross is always hard. I don't do a lot of cyclocross racing. I normally squeeze it in my off season between an American road season and the Australian road season. So I'm never really sure where my form is. I usually started after a couple of weeks off the bike, and then I'm never really sure where the competition's form is at either. So that one, I don't get too nervous about it because I have little expectation of it because I run it through my off season. But I definitely enjoy it.
Absolutely. So road racing, you would have ended the pressure cooker because you're a coach's dream, you're a manager's dream, you're a director's dream. You know, you show up, you've got this optimism about you, positivity, even in the morning. You smile, you've got this amazing personality. Anybody would be rapt to have you in their professional team. But I know the professionals that we've spoken to, and I've been around professional teams very, very briefly. It's a pressure cooker. It's hardcore. So how does your personality go with that? And when you entered the professional ranks, you know, did you have the perspective that you have now?
So I think I came from track cycling, which is an extremely professional sport. Everyone who does track cycling, it's very regimented. You know, it's power-based. It's quite predictable in many, many ways. And then I moved across to road. So I think I was extremely professional as a track rider. And when I moved across the road, especially in the women's peloton, I should never say they're not professional, but I suppose because we don't earn huge amounts of money, there has to be a huge level of passion from the riders in the peloton to do what they do. So I think the women's peloton, in many cases in comparison to the men's, is probably a lot more fun. Not less professional, but just their personalities and their nature, they really have to enjoy what they're doing because they're not on $1 million contracts.
So this is a passionate topic for you when you come up to what women get paid and things like that, and you've been outspoken and stuff like that. Was that something that really affected you out of the gate in terms of the disparity between the men's contracts and the women's contracts? Did it really affect you as a person?
Not particularly. I think I have just become a huge supporter of teams and events who offer you know, equal opportunities for women, whether it be equal prize money, equal race time. Obviously mountain biking is huge in that way. It's all equal race time. It's all equal prize money. And then obviously within Australia, we have that standard as well. And then since then I've migrated to America where they also have that same standard.
Unbelievable. Yeah, your travel has brought you into contact with a lot of different sort of like ways to do road riding or mountain biking or cyclocross or track. You know, your travel has exposed you to many, many, many different things that you've tried to bring back to Australia in your own little way. Tell us about the Criterium series, because as a rider, was it the Criteriums that you had your first sort of like consistently big success in?
I think Australia have always done Criteriums really well. When I was younger, when I was starting out and I was 16 and 17 racing with the men Criteriums in Melbourne, that was huge for my development as a bike rider. And then further on, when I sort of hit 19, 20, we used to have a summer crit team called the Honda Dream Team that Rochelle Gilmore used to run. And that was kind of my first introduction to being part of a women's team, being part of something exciting, winning bike races, the tactics of it all. So I think it didn't surprise me that eventually I came back to that. But through that middle bit, I did jump to some road racing in Europe and just didn't have quite the same flair for me.
How come?
Well, I think for starters, they're harder bike races. You know, you're racing things like Strada Bianca and you have to be a fitter, better bike rider. If you're not a fitter, better bike rider, you go straight out the arse. And believe it or not, that's not actually that enjoyable, is it, Brad?
Peter's calling out her Bendigo Peloton mate Brad Guy, who's going to give a vote of thanks at the end as a voice from the bunch. So Pete's starting to rev up the banter. Hey, so Peter, so how did that make you feel in Europe? Did you feel out of your depth? Did you feel it wasn't for you? Did you understand the language barrier? What was the most difficult thing other than the quality of the bike racing and the racing in Europe?
So for me, as my professionalism fell away from the sport and my passion increased, I realized that Europe would never be my niche. I had to be more committed as a bike rider to be successful there.
So tell us about that transition from professional to passion, because that sounds really, really interesting and something that came to you over quite a few seasons. But really, that is where you're positioned right now, full of passion, full of enjoyment, and full of quality, making a difference to our industry down here, our cycling industry, people and teams and stuff like that. So tell us about the transition between what you're saying is professionalism to passion.
Yeah, so I suppose people follow the path in many ways that they're expected to follow, especially in women's cycling, because, you know, historically there's just been one path. You know, you go through juniors, you go to world champs, you go through to the AIS, and then you race with a professional team in Europe. And for a long time, a lot of people thought that was the only way. So I went down that path and was a professional in Europe, and I went, well, is this what I really want? And I was winning bike races and national champion and the form of my life really when I was 20. And I just woke up every day really sad because I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel excited. I just felt like I was ticking boxes on this road that everybody thought I should travel on. And yes, I woke up one day and I said, well, I think that's it. And I had an okay exit out of the program. I had some really supportive people, supportive coaches, supportive parents and friends, and obviously, and for a little time there, I felt like I'd lost a part of me because I'd been an athlete my entire life, and I thought if I'm not an athlete anymore, still lost me. You know, what will I be successful at life? And then my father-in-law, who's since passed, but when he was 62, he took me to a mountain bike ride, and I fell in love with the sport all over again. And I think that was really important to me and my progression. And I rode a mountain bike all those years and back to the road and, yeah, loving it more than ever.
That would have taken a huge amount of soul searching because, like, as a young person, no matter what support you've got from coaches, parents, family and stuff like that, to step away from the machine or to step away from the well-worn path that you're already on and being successful on, that must have taken a huge amount of soul searching, a huge amount.
Yeah, it was tough, and at the time, a lot of people disagreed with it. But I don't know. I just suppose if you wake up every day crying and you're winning bike races, then there has to be something wrong with that recipe. And yeah, I am where I am today.
Absolutely. And where you are today, let's explore that, because the mountain biking lit you up. You've got quotes in the press and stuff like that, which I just love. You know, quotes like, "I still enjoy riding my bike way too much." So your passion comes out of your comments, your passion comes out of your activity, out of your bike racing. Brad Guy was on our call yesterday when we were doing a tech check, and he was talking about your current passion. You're willing to show up to races not in your top form, and that's already always gone before you, because a lot of the pros, a lot of national champions, a lot of international champions, they won't put themselves out there in a vulnerable position in a group ride or a club race or a smaller race unless they're in around top form because they don't want to feel that feeling, as you said, of going out the arse and being, and people talking about them and sort of the rumours start that they might not be any good. That's never bothered you, has it?
So I think at a professional level, it did, because that was, what I'd chosen to do. And at a domestic level and, in America with my teammates, not really, because I think, all right, I've come to this amazing bike race in this amazing location with, 6 to 7 of my really good friends, because that's what we are in our team. And I go, how can that be a fail? Whether you win or lose, you can't fail.
And you've always got a Brad to beat around corners. Hey, listen, tell us about the teams, because you've done some extraordinary things as, I guess, someone who's really championing women's sport, if you want to put it that way, or championing forming teams. Because one of your favourite sayings, and I love this saying, is you can't be what you can't see. And so for young women coming through, if they're not seeing women professional riders in any discipline, it's very, very hard to have that flame of inspiration lit internally for them to start their journey to get that professional jersey on one day. And so you've gone to extraordinary lengths to form teams, join teams, promote teams, but also partner in with some very, very key personalities in the sport to make sure that women's cycling continues to grow.
Yeah, I have a perfect example of this. So on Monday night, was watching Ninja Warrior with my niece and nephew, and I'm not sure if you watched the show, but Olivia Vivian is the only female to have qualified for the grand final, and then her partner goes on to win. Spoiler alert. And I was sitting there with my nephew, and I said, "Oh, who's your favourite Ninja Warrior?" And he says Olivia Vivian. And I thought, now imagine if that was a men's only competition. Imagine if he couldn't see her participate in that event. He would never know her. So he's inspired by her, and she's his favourite Ninja Warrior. But if it was a men's only competition streamed, like most of them are, then he would never discover her. So I think that's a perfect example of you can't be what you can't see. I'm watching the GCN Race Pass at the moment, and they put up as much women's coverage as they can, but there's about one women's race a month. But I can watch 3 men's races every day. Yeah, so I think that's the issue.
One of my favourite quotes is, like you said, it's almost a sport in itself to find women's racing on TV and watch it live. So what have you done about it? Because this is a huge frustration. You're out on the bike and you are racing with professional girls, professional teams, sponsors, and you're not getting the coverage that like a piddly men's race gets year in, year out. So what did you do about it?
So when we go to America every year, we take a photographer with us. At the moment, our photographer is Mason Hendon. Snapped his leg the other day and he's in hospital, but he comes to our events, takes photos and offers coverage, for our supporters back home and our fans back home. And that offers a bit of inspiration for the next generation. And then for the races that aren't streamed in America, and a few of them are, USA Crits do a great job there. But I use a GoPro on the front of my bike and I post that footage after the race. So everyone can have that in-race feeling and get a little bit of coverage of what women's cycling is all about.
So we can all find that on YouTube. Where do we find on YouTube? What's some of the titles?
I actually just post it straight to my Instagram. Yeah.
Okay. So Peta Mullens on Insta, you'll find the American Crit Series, because that American Crit Series is going places. Like we spoke yesterday and I went online and had a look at the Crybaby Hill in Tulsa. And this is an amazing event. If no one's heard about the American Crit Series, please go and have a look at the Crybaby Hill Tulsa website and see what it is, because Pete's going to describe to you her first outing in Tulsa and what that was like for her and her partner, Jared.
Yeah, so there are just so many people. In America, you'll have anywhere from sort of 5,000 to 40,000 people just lined around watching your bike race, usually from beer tent to beer tent to beer tent, family street. But Crybaby itself is a really iconic circuit based in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is a beautiful town. And they have 4 straights on the circuit. And the back straight is manned on either end by police officers. And that whole straight is pretty much a nightclub. They have 2 dance studios there. And then all the way along is people dressed in bikinis and costumes and absolutely pissed. They've got I remember I went up there after the race one day actually, and it just smells like weed. And you're up there. It's all sticky, and you race up the hill, and all you're breathing in is the smell of booze and weed. And I went up there after the race. I was quite parched, and they had some watermelon, and I went, oh, how refreshing, watermelon. And of course it was dosed in you know what. And but it epitomizes the American racing scene. They are all about fun, about including some people who have no idea what a bike race is. It's bringing in that general public to enjoy a sporting event.
So it's Mardi Gras meets Tour de France, and you can have some vodka watermelon at the end to great. Sounds awesome. Sounds so Australian, doesn't it? I can't believe we haven't got it up and running here at Crybaby Hill.
We've actually, Roxalt have, I've won the race once, and Roxalt have won it on another 2 occasions. This year we went 1-2, and we stopped on the hill afterwards to take this magnificent photo and in front of all of these people. And as we rode off, one of our riders, Josie, just hopped on the side and had a goon bag. And then up the end of the street, they have a fishing pole. And on the end of the fishing pole is a $1 note. And so every single lap, they drop this fishing pole into the peloton, and all the riders are trying to reach up and grab this $1 note. Yeah, they do it. They do a really good job.
I think we need to adopt it. I think we need to adopt it super fast. I think it'll have a lot of people on their bikes riding criteriums with those sort of conditions. But sometimes it takes a little bit of thinking like that. And was that your first big paydays when you got on the circuit over there, and you and Jared were basically just ad hoc going around for a race after race after race, picking up some money? Because, you know, like the crime about women's racing in Europe and stuff like that is that you basically race these international races for a pair of socks, for a prize that you all have to, you know, get one each. The prize money is absolutely crazy. Can you explain to the crowd sometimes what you get in Europe and what the criteriums in America offer, and and the journey you're on now to try to bring it to Australia?
Yeah, so a few years ago, to race the Giro, you would win €2,000 for an 8-9 day stage race between 6 riders. And at this race alone at Crybaby Hill, the actual stage, and it's part of a crit series, is $3,000 just for that one crit stage. And then within that, they have what we call preems, which is when randomly throughout the race, they will blow the whistle or ring a bell, and that'll mean it's a sprint lap. And so the next lap you'll sprint. At Crybaby Hill, they do what's called a crowd preem. So they go around with this box of this empty box, and the crowd fill it with money, and they do crowd preems. And some of the crowd preems are up to $4,500, sometimes worth more than the bike race.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It is very much supported by the people.
Unbelievable. It's just so much fun, isn't it? It's just crowdfunding for a preem, all the fun and excitement. We've got to have it in Australia, surely.
Yeah, I think we attempt to do things like that. I'm not sure how far our laws and legalities will go in terms of having something quite like Crybaby Hill. But for the purpose of, growing the sport, and it's not always a nightclub. There's many positive races that aren't quite like that. But to be based around a social event is the way that America do it, and they do it very well.
Yeah, they certainly do. You've mentioned Roxalt a couple of times in your stories leading up to now, and I'm just going to call out, if anybody's got a question for Peta in terms of her career and everything like that, just whack it in the chats right now, because we're going to move into questions in just a few minutes' time as everyone's pedaling away. I know everybody's under pressure, especially Jeff Coombs, who's doing his best there. I love your backdrop too, by the way, Coombsy. Thanks, mate. Good to see you. So if you've got a question for Pete, just drop it in there. Brad, we're going to hold yours over till the end, mate, because we don't want a band to go back and forward between the Bendigo peloton on the call. Tell me about Roxalt, because Roxalt's an incredible, a little bit like Jerry Ryan with the Orica Green Edge guys. Kelvin Rundle is the sponsor of Roxalt, and he's done an incredible job over 7 years. He's really kept a lot of girls on the bike in the saddle, winning and supporting them, hasn't he?
Yeah, so the original setup of the team was that he provided a sanctuary for professional women when they returned to Australia over the summer to have someone to race for. So normally what happens is those girls come home, and for 3 or 4 months of the year, they don't race because they don't have a team to race with. So he would seek special consideration from their teams to guest ride for his team in Australia, and it would give them, a little bit more racing, something to be a part of in the lead up to Road Nationals. And then 5 years ago, he dreamed a bit bigger, and we took the team to Europe. And then, in the last couple of years, we've dreamed bigger again. Last year, we spent 3 months in America, in addition to doing the National Road Series. And then on occasion, we've been UCI. This year, we were UCI and raced the Tour Down Under and Cadel Evans Road Race and Herald Sun Tour, and just been giving these amazing, ridiculous opportunities to women for 7 years now.
What type of team is it? You've been on many teams. What type of team is Rock Salt?
I always say it's the team that riders go to retire, because we have a really good time. So unfortunately, we can only field 10 riders for the year, but it does give 10 riders a home for that season. We have a couple of junior riders, a couple of brand new riders coming on next year who have really barely ridden a road race. So I think we have a really good balance of experienced women, young women, and then a lot of women who are wanting to learn something and travel and step outside of their comfort zone.
Are you the skipper or the culture champion? What are you?
They call me Mum.
Oh,
but
nice.
It's MOM, Mom, like America.
Oh, yeah, nice. You're the mom. And in your role as mom, what are you trying to deliver to the rest of the teammates?
Just an amazing experience, really. I want them to love bike riding as much as I do. I want them to love bike racing as much as I do. And I want them to recognise that success isn't measured by the type of bike races you do.
Interesting. Success is not measured by the type of bike races you do. What do you mean by that?
Well, in terms of you don't have to win a World Tour race to be a successful bike rider.
But that's fairly counter to what we do on the line. That's fairly counter to what we coach from the coach's box or the coaching car or the sport directive or even the sponsor. That's a little bit counterculture to what racing is, yeah?
Yeah, well, I think it depends how you measure success. If you measure success in terms of performance or whether you measure success in terms of a memory.
Do you measure success by the number of words you get out during a race?
I can get out a few during a race. For me, I measure it in what we call happiness wads.
Okay.
If I'm enjoying my bike riding, and
you are such a hippie sometimes. Happiness watts. So that's a metrics inside Rock Salt?
Oh, and inside any team, you ask anyone.
Okay. Because we had Jens Voigt on last week, and I think I asked him 2 questions in 45 minutes. You're going pretty good. Do you sort of view yourself as a little bit of the Jens Voigt of women's racing in terms of you're the commentator on the road, you're the director on the road, you're the mum on the road, you're the happiness watts measurer on the road? Is that your role?
Oh, certainly at a different level to Jens Voigt. Like I don't think I would ever compare myself to him. I feel privileged to be sandwiched between Jens Voigt and Anna Mears next week. I think I really struggle to be compared to riders like that who have achieved, the ultimate levels of physical success in their sport. I really just strive to inspire women, to show them a different path, and for them to enjoy bike riding.
You're definitely doing that, Pete. You're definitely doing that. Some questions from the bunch. Megan wants to know the Rock Salt kit is probably the best in women's pro peloton. It looks epic. Also, how good was it watching Sarah in the Rock Salt kit win the national title?
Yeah, so there's another measure of success as an example. For me to watch up-and-coming riders pull out extremely phenomenal performances like that, I find that inspiring myself, even as, possibly an older mentor to someone like that. To see her progression. To see her progression through the sport, and, she's now professional with Tibco, and that for me is probably more influential than if I was to go off and get top 10 in a women's world tour race.
We got one from Chriso here. Hey, Peter, as team owner, how proud of Justine's nationals effort this year? How proud are you?
And again, and I was up until last year was coaching Justine, and she's a phenomenal, not just athlete, but a phenomenal woman. She runs a couple of physiotherapy practices, and yeah, to go from one year having pretty much an 18-year-old win the national title to having a 41-year-old nearly win the national title just kind of shows what the team's about, I think.
Tell us about the team that you founded and you own.
So Kelvin Rundle is the owner, and Justine, myself and Kelvin as a trio run the team together, and we sort of bounce ideas off each other and off the riders. We're a very rider-run team. So when we sign a new rider, when we plan a race calendar, it's all in consultation with the athletes. We'll say, oh, we're going to sign this person, and we'll poll the group. And if anyone says, oh, no, I don't know about that person, well, then they're off the list, because for us, we're a family and a group of friends, and the most important thing, potentially even beyond results for us, is that we enjoy our travel and time together.
Yeah, that's interesting, because like in corporate life, we are constantly talking about hiring people for who they are, not what they can do, because you can teach skills, but you can't teach character. And so you guys are doing a very, very version of that in a world that it's all about results.
Yeah, it's very backwards, very backwards.
Are you infecting other teams with it?
I think to some extent. We have a lot of people inquire to be part of the team. I wish we could have more riders, but we just couldn't accommodate them in a race program. And I think from the outside, they say, oh, that looks like fun. And I go, that's all I care about. I don't want them to necessarily come to us and say, oh, you won pretty much every race you started last year as a team. I want to be part of that, because I just don't want that to be, I don't want that to be the vibe of the team. That's not our feels.
My dad would always say to me, a happy athlete is a fast athlete and a dangerous athlete. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it sounds like the character selection you're going through is delivering a heck of a lot more positivity on the road when things go right and wrong, which you need. Yeah,
that's the idea of it. I think we have a couple of key riders who we expect to win bike races. Myself, Justine, Emily Herfoss. And then beyond that, we build a team that we really enjoy being around, and that produces an amazing environment. And there's riders like Brie Wilson and Maddie Wright over the summer who went out and did phenomenal things at World Tour races. And to see that when I didn't sometimes expect it, I love that.
Mike says, great outlook and fantastic to see someone who has found and know what they love and own it completely. Adam Hocking comes in damn straight, Mike, so well done. Encouraging everyone. Got a technical question here. This is from Purdy. Hey, Peter, what are your thoughts on single speed mountain bike racing? Is this the way forward? Is Purdy a mate of yours?
I coach Purdy, and she is the Australian 24-hour mountain bike champion, and she wants to do it on a single speed. And I keep saying, hell no, Purdy, my answer hasn't changed.
So she's in constant therapy.
Yes.
Wanting to get on single speed mountain bike for a 24-hour challenge. So you say hell no to Purdy. So Purdy, your answer is hell no. What are your thoughts on potential fixie crits? And this is coming from Ag. So Ag wants to know, what's your thought on potential fixie crits other than the hospital bills?
So again, America do this really, really well. We will do our races, a women's crit, a men's crit, and then they will have two fixed gear races, a women's and men's, as the highlight events of the night. And they are goddamn crazy, like absolutely crazy. I actually did two down in Melbourne this year. I just bought a track bike and went out and did a couple at St Kilda, and they're next level. But I think, again, that comes back to that viewer pleasure. We love watching it. We love a little bit of danger. And as if crit racing isn't scary enough, America have gone the next level and taken away the brakes. But again,
so is it
back to, it's marketable.
Is it so? The ratcheting up of the danger and the technical brilliance of the riders, because explain what the difference is between a normal crit and say a fixie crit.
So a fixed gear crit, obviously they do try to run it on particular types of courses, because you can't stop pedaling. So when you're on a certain angle going around a corner, you've got to pedal that whole time. And so there is that chance that you will obviously hit your pedal if you're taking it in a certain way. So they do run it on certain types of courses. And then it's a real display of power, because you can't get a run at someone and attack into a corner because you can't brake before that corner. You can only go X amount of speed through that corner. So it's a really tactical and calculated race. I really enjoy watching them. They still scare me to race, but once I did a few in Melbourne, I thought I reckon I could give this a shot next year.
Interesting. So for those at home who aren't on their bikes or aren't bike riders, the fact that the bike has got one single speed and keeps on going gives you, you have to be committed in your choices before you get to the choice zone. So before you get to the corner, you have to understand where you're going, what you're doing, what people are doing around you, because you won't be able to stop once you get to the corner with brakes or any kind of normal behaviour. Got a couple of questions here. Dave O'Leary, love the kicker bike. You will never give it back, Peter. It's something we asked Jens Voigt last week. We got a very, very strange and crazy answer because he's a strange and crazy guy. What's your favourite race? Well, what's the race that you look back on with such fond memories as something that you really, really achieved something for yourself?
So again, everything for me is always on two levels. In terms of memories, and my most enjoyable race I've ever done is probably Cape Epic. It's a stage race in South Africa, 8 days, and you climb up to 2,000 or 3,000 meters a day on a mountain bike, up to 100 kilometers a day, and I did that with my partner Jared. It's a pairs race, and so pretty much any pairs race I've ever done, I've absolutely loved. They're probably my fondest memories. But then, from a racing point of view, I think actually the Tour Down Under is one of those races where I go to and I feel like a celebrity bike rider. So we get police escorts to every stage, buffet meals at a hotel. I feel like a male professional bike rider. So they do a great job over there.
So they're the two. The one in South Africa, a pairs race, and the fact that you're going there with your life partner, Jared, who's an epic bike rider in his own right. So you would have been trying to make sure you're doing your part in that, 100%. And then the TDU, nice, very, very nice.
And then I probably will have to throw in America. I mean, Crybaby Hill's iconic, but when I raced Athens in front of 40,000 people, that was pretty cool.
Athens, Georgia.
Yes, yeah.
And that was a crit.
Yeah, yep, Criterium, yep.
Yeah, fantastic. What does it do for you when you're racing for yourself and you're racing for a team? Because for you, there's a real tune-up. There's a real transition there in purpose when you're racing with a team or a pairs, like with Jared, to racing just for yourself.
Yeah, I think, it really depends on what time of year it is. So Jared and I do a pairs race every year, which won't happen this year, in October, called Cape to Cape. And normally I've had 4 or 5 weeks off the bike. And luckily it's a pairs race because it means he can push me. But instead of pushing like the sort of 57 kilograms, he's got to push 65 kilograms that time of year. And much comes out with RSI in his wrist. So there's that level. And then obviously we train up really hard for other pairs stage races like Cape Epic. So that's always on a sort of different level there. And the summer racing's the same. For crits, I can get away with a little bit less fitness and just rely on being really savvy through the corners and sort of launching myself at a certain time for one effort. And then through summer, things like, Road Nationals and Tour Down Under, I just have to be at peak fitness to be competitive there.
Adrian Hocking wants to know, how tough is the Golden Triangle Epic on your home ground in comparison to other 100-kilometre races you've done? Yeah,
so I've done a lot of 100-kilometre races. The Triangle Epic.
Why is that? Is that because it's just your distance and you can burn people, or what?
No, I think when I started mountain biking, that was what was on offer. We had 6-hour races and 100K races. And to me, they're a beautiful balance of physical ability, skills, and endurance. Yeah, but the Golden Triangle Epic is a tough one because probably the flattest of all the 100-kilometre marathon races I do, but it is one of the hardest because you have to pedal the entire time. There's no downhills to freewheel on. So by the end, your whole body is just rattled. It's quite rocky here in Bendigo. So between, especially I have lower back issues. So between my lower back and my hands, and you get to the end of the race and you're so tired and fatigued in your hands, sometimes you have to use both fingers to change your gear just on your thumb lever. So it's a next level type of pain.
Love it. Love it. This is from Petros. Have you ever considered doing the race across America?
Oh, no, I can't say. When I was growing up, I always loved the idea. I never grew up wanting to be an Olympian. I always wanted to be good at sport. I really enjoyed sport, but I grew up watching, adventure races on Discovery Channel and things like that. And so I suppose it's not too far from my mindset, but it's a long, long way from my physical capabilities. But Purdy, who wrote that question before, she's ridden across Australia. Sure, she could ride across America.
Just tip her in. You're the coach. Hey,
single speed.
We're heavily involved with Tour de Cure, and Tour de Cure has got 20 events every single year and raising millions of dollars. Are an amazing organisation. Do you do a lot of Tour de Cure type signature tours, 8 days and things like that to work on your fitness or be part of a different type of riding group? Do you do the charity stuff?
No, not really. I've done a couple in South Australia and not as many as I would like to be a part of. When I started out, I used to do a lot of that type of riding, but now I race 100, 110 days a year. Obviously not this year, COVID set us back. And so when you race 100 days a year, there's not that many days left to do anything else, really.
Because that's an extraordinary number. Like, when you're talking over 100 days a year racing,
yeah,
that's a lot of racing. You are so far out on your own, kind of different in terms of all of that, because you got the 4 styles. You got the track, road, cyclocross, mountain, and you just will not stop racing regardless of your form.
Yeah, and I think that's why the seasons eventually start to sort of take their toll, and you can't be in peak form all year when you do 100 race days. And even at 100 race days, I still feel like I let people down. I feel an obligation to support local racing, state racing, national racing, international racing. A lot of people go, how come you didn't go and do this? But it gets to the point where 100 days is quite fatiguing. And as much as I like to give back to the sport, I'm at the point now where I probably can't do it at the sacrifice of being able to do it for another 5-10 years.
I think we have to teach you, like Jens Voigt says, shut up legs. I think we've got to teach you to say shut up people and stop offering new races. Hey, listen, so what's next? Because we've talked about your incredible career, your incredible attitude towards your racing, how you're bringing other people across this passion journey for you about happiness and happy watts and things like that. What's next? COVID, you're in Bendigo, COVID stage 4 or whatever it is down in Victoria at the moment. You're completely shut down. When are we going to see you out there? What's your thoughts on the rest of 2020 going forward?
Yeah, as a team, we've pretty much come to a decision collectively that 2020 is nearly a write-off, and we're really going to focus our energy towards 2021. We still have a lot of girls in Queensland and South Australia who are able to race their local series. A lot of planning to be able to, especially as a smaller team, to be able to get our race invites and plan our season. And it's just a bit risky for us to sit here and hope that we'll be racing at the end of this year. So I think we're hopeful we'll be able to go overseas in maybe May next year. And so that's what we're planning for. The rest of the season will just be making sure the girls, we actually signed 2 new riders who we announce soon. So we're still trying to keep a little bit of motivation in the team and look ahead to next year.
So that motivation comes with online riding. How are you at online riding? Because you've had a ride with everyone this morning. How are you at the Zwift stuff? Do you do Zwift races? Because a lot of your teammates are competing really well in it. What are you like, Pete?
I am terrible, absolutely terrible. So we raced the National Road Series, and Cycling Australia and Zwift got together this year, and we raced our National Road Series on a virtual platform, which was really cool. 6 or 7 races, and one of my teammates, Brie Wilson, actually got second, and Justine was up there. Justine Barrow, phenomenal at 40, she had both her collarbone plates removed and raced a Zwift race 4 days later. That's how phenomenal she is, I know. And I think I got 3rd or 4th last in every single race. One of my teammates Snapchatted, and she said, I know you're having a She goes, you know you're having a bad day on Zwift when Peta Mullens is beating you. That's how bad. That's how bad I am at it. But they do a great job of live streaming all those races. So I just get online, and while I'm suffering out the back, I get to watch the live stream of my teammates, and I think that's really cool, being part of that family, even when we're so far distanced.
Well, you must suck at it because you got no one to talk to.
Yeah.
Is it because you're alone in your little workout room with your framed jerseys behind you and your missing partner not beside you? Is it because you've got no one around you and basically you have a word per minute power up?
No, I will say that I am out of shape right now, so that doesn't help. But in addition to that, I find it really hard to motivate myself in my own lounge room. Yeah.
You miss the road, you miss the feedback, you miss the hills, you miss the track, and you miss the people most of all.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. So, and tell us a little bit about your business. You've just closed the bike shop, and again, another amazing thing about the 108 days, 110 days you were racing, you had the bike shop going. You've got a Renault's business with Jared going, and you're racing. You're running a team. You're competing in a team, traveling and everything like that. It was an incredible outlook of activity that you had going. But you've sold the shop and you've got the Renault business. Tell people about the Renault business, especially if you're in Bendigo and you want a Renault.
Yeah, so we must be. I think we're on our 5th house that we're renting right now. We just settled on a block. We're going to build from scratch for our 6th house, and yeah, Jared's just wasn't sure what he was going to do after 23 years in a bike shop, so he bought a Bobcat and a tipper truck, and yeah, he's been working this last week doing site cleans and rubbish pickup. And yeah, I think people always say, oh, you're so lucky to be able to do what you do. But I think it really is all life choices. So the bike shop, we felt, was starting to tie us down a little bit in terms of, he didn't get to travel with me last year. I really missed that. And we said, well, let's change it. Let's make it possible again. Yeah, we don't have kids, so I was going to say we're quite lucky, but some people won't feel that way about children. But we still have the ability to, dictate what happens in our own lives.
Absolutely. So each week on Telstra Connected Cycling, we ask one of our audience to help us close the event. We ask them to share a bit of their story. And this week we've asked Brad Geyer to be that person who rides and races alongside Peter in Bendigo in the peloton there. And apparently, according to Peter, as of yesterday, Brad would be a lot better at racing if he wasn't such a pussy going through corners. So with that being said, here's Brad Geyer.
Wow, good intro. Good morning. I don't know if I get to ride alongside Peter. I get to ride with Peter in the same bunch somewhere. Look, first of all, we want to thank Peter for turning up and introducing me and showing your passion. We really appreciate that. I've also been asked to, I better slow down because I'm puffing too much. I've been asked to share a little bit about this series, and I'm like Peter, someone who loves getting out on the road, going solo usually, clearing the head. But ever since some little Irish lady invited me to this series, ever since I've been getting great input from stories of challenge, resilience and passion. And I think there's real power in people's stories, and I love that. I don't know if you were here when Laurie Lawrence the other week sang the national anthem at the end of the interview, and how many were affected by that. And I was struck that that affected me, and I love that. I love that it hit me to see this guy sing the anthem with such passion. And I love that there are things and there are gems in these series that make me think, what the heck was that made me think about? And I know I resound when I'm surrounded by people of passion, and I know we get affected by people around us. But it's a good reminder that that we're building culture no matter where we're at, and we just have to decide what that culture is. And Laurie seems to choose that daily. He's an amazing man, and Peter is one of these people. She's a crazy woman, but she's a good example of someone who builds culture, and she's one of inclusion, one of encouragement. I know I wouldn't be racing vets if there wasn't relaxed people as well as driven people like Peter creating culture in Bendigo around bunches, around friends. So the real kudos to her. She's also willing to be vulnerable and come and smash us at bets even when she's unfit and just have fun. And spending time telling me how I'm overtraining and even just her willingness to be that nurturing mother to her team. It's awesome to watch and reminds me to do my bit in building culture. And so that's what surprised me about this series, the power of story, the little gems I get to apply to our life. And part of that is being surprised by Peter's story this morning. So thanks for turning up, Peter. And,
thanks, Brad.
That's it from me.
Thanks, Brad. People see you in those corners soon, mate, and hopefully you'll improve. But that was great. Thank you very much, mate. Just a couple of words. Megan wanted to say thank you for being so honest and authentic, Peter. Love it. Paul V said, thanks, Peter. Thanks, Telstra. Another great entertaining session. Although everyone was riding a little hard today. Thank you very much, Paul V. And Armando wanted to say spot on, Brad, with what you were saying. So well done. And that's going to wrap us up, guys. Peter, I think you've got a huge future in life coaching before you. That if you ever get sick of putting in and concreting posts alongside your bloke, Jared, I think you've got such an incredible outlook on life that can really help people understand that life is there to be lived, to have fun, and that happiness can be measured in watts. And you'll be able to apply that. So from all of us, we just say thank you very much for making yourself available this morning. Say good day to Jared when he finally does wake up. And come back and visit us anytime you want to share your story. You've got around about 150 new fans, that's for sure.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no worries. And that rock salt kit is easy to see in a crowd, and we'll definitely be following it in the peloton wherever it is, no matter where in the world you are racing. So thank you for your time. Good luck with the rest of the COVID sort of season going forward, and hopefully you can join us again on Telstra Connected Cycling.
Thanks, Duncan. Thanks, team.